There we go. Now we have sound, and we are back. So it is birthdays today. It's Tim's birthday, who claims to be 22. And
It's actually yesterday.
you're going to be Matt today. It's Matt's birthday, and he's 33. Yours was yesterday. His is today. So I will sing them birthday song, but I have to have your help. This is the way it goes. And so everybody has to clap. You kind of got to get a rhythm going. All right, let's go. All right. This is your birthday song, and it's not very long. It was there. Why are you still clapping? It's the best I can do.
Kevin, get back to your office, and tomorrow you can come back and try again.
I see what you did there. Just like you, it's going to be just as bad. It doesn't get any better. Because you know why? Because I have a sucky partner too. All right, so that was fun. Now I have to spend all this time erasing this. Because otherwise you guys are going to know what number was happy birthday.
22.
Can I get a timestamp on that?
A timestamp? Oh. Yeah, it was shortly after I remembered to turn the sound back on.
So can you go up just a little bit, just to the last part?
It's always
Okay, good. I got it. Good.
All right.
I got it. You got it.
All right, so we have the spider. Uh-oh. There we go. Spider. It's the central component. Slides over a splined crankshaft. Slides over a splined crank. Now what attaches to that, Hannah? The turbo encabulator. All right. Has 2 or 3 arms. Should say legs if it's a spider. Depending on what?
How many blades?
Yes, the number of blades. Well, then we have blades. Because what good is a propeller without blades?
It's not.
All right. What are they usually made out of?
Wood, aluminum, or steel?
Well, usually, so if I had to take a poll or a statistical analysis, usually made of aluminum. But early models, that means the older ones, were made of wood or steel. And then we have the counterweight assembly. And where is that attached?
To the hub. Right.
Well, it can't really attach it to the hub.
To the blade with the spider.
There we go. Can't attach it to the spider because the spider doesn't move. To the what?
Blade.
To the blade. To the butt end of the blade. All right, so we got the spider, and then we put the blades on the spider, and then what goes over top of all of that?
Piston.
Getting close. The hub. All right, so those are 2 steel halves that are a match set. So the way and they're usually serial numbered. So usually when I say usually, it means they are the serial numbered or marked in such a way that they go back together, and that's the married pair. And kind of think about it as it comes out as one piece, and they hacksaw it right down the middle, and that's why those two pieces have to stay together, because the guy with the cigarette couldn't hacksaw straight on the next set. So, all right, it contains the bearings and spacers. And all of that also surrounds the spider. All right, now what do we have, Dennis?
Piston.
All right. Cylinder and piston assembly. Now, if somebody would be so kind as to remind me tomorrow, probably Hannah and Alex, or somebody who's much bigger. I have a couple of these that we can drag out, but they're quite heavy. Huh?
Just get the WD-40 and slide it across the floor.
All right, so she's got it down. All right, let's see. The piston. The piston threads through the cylinder and onto the crankshaft and actually holds the propeller onto the engine. So the piston threads through the cylinder onto the crankshaft. Hang on, I'm going to take a break here.
A few?
All right. Let's see. The piston threads through the cylinder onto the crankshaft. And actually, let me see. And actually holds the propeller onto the engine. Holds the prop onto the engine. The cylinder is sealed around the piston. Which one of these moves, the cylinder or the piston? The cylinder is sealed around the piston. So the piston threads through the cylinder and onto the crankshaft, and the cylinder is sealed. I don't think I like the way that was worded. Cylinder sealed around the piston. The cylinder slides along the stationary piston. The cylinder slides along the stationary piston. All right, so remember the piston actually holds, let's see, is this one going to work? About like this one. The piston right here actually has the threads in it that screws down onto the crankshaft. And the cylinder slides over the piston. Then what you end up doing is you actually have this cap. So the cap then goes on last. It's sealed with a snap ring on there. So you have to pull out the cap, then you go in there and screw that on, and that's how that all works. Cylinder slides along the stationary piston. Once the piston is secure, the cylinder is capped, creating an oil-tight seal. Once the piston is secure, the cylinder is capped. creating an airtight seal, or oil tight. Creating an oil tight seal. Would you like to know the torque on this? I don't want to write it all out, so let's see, torque. Piston torque is, and I'm quoting, applying a force of 180 pounds at the end of a 4-foot bar, while applying the force, strike the bar, close to the wrench with a hammer weighing about 2 1/2 pounds. There is your torque.
How hard do you strike it?
It does not give.
That's useless.
Something less than you would do, and I shouldn't pick on Alex. You know who else? Can pick? He can just take it though. He's such a good guy. So. Than me. He is the torque master?
Yeah. 600 pounds. 720, like from the 4 foot, 720 foot pounds.
720 foot-pounds.
720, and then you have to hit it with a 2.5 pound hammer with an unknown force.
Yeah. That's the way the book said.
How do you calibrate that?
Yeah, so a hammer calibrated?
Well,
Spin around.
you have to calibrate the hammer. Make sure it weighs about 2.5 pounds, because that's exactly what I'm quoting. It's about, yes.
Is it only the head of the hammer, or is it the entire hammer?
I know. Do you count the handle? Has it got to be hickory? Could it be ash? I mean, come on. What are the standards here? Every now and then you run across funny named things in aviation, and you'd be surprised how often it can come up once you know it. Welch bolts is one of them. The other one is a Wilkie button. Which is funny because I worked with the guy. I really enjoyed working with him, and his name was Steve Wilkie. And the buttons were not, in fact, named after him, but I'm not making this up. They're Wilkie buttons. I wish it was a funny name I made up, but a Wilkie button is, and you've seen Wilkie buttons. I don't know if I can draw one, but if you have some sort of hole and you want to cap it, Wilkie buttons, they have, I don't know if I can do it.
Oh, like the mushroom shaped thing?
Yes, a mushroom thing. So you have the fancy cap, and then inside of it you'll have little, oops, I'll get this way, little teeth.
Oh, okay.
And those are ones that people put on their chest.
On their chest?
Yeah, like flag or whatever.
Scare me a little bit. What?
No, one of their clothes, like an emblem or something like that with a little pin.
No, these are actually like round buttons, and they have little teeth that go all the way around them, so you can push it inside of a hole. And so sometimes, like if an inspection hole is maybe an inch or something, you'll find them. So those are.
Like what keeps the linings on the door panels and stuff like that? Those are Wilkie buttons?
No, these are actually like finished. They're chrome. I don't know. At the risk of completely being, I don't know, like hitting something like scat tube. That is. That's not it. That is not at all what I was thinking.
That's the one.
It's because Google. There we go. That's the one right there. There's a Wilkie button. See? So, huh?
If you turn it over, that's where the face is.
Yes, that's the not side. So, pilot supply. There we go. All right. So I didn't make it up. All right. So now you know.
You made it page not
No
bad.
longer valid.
Huh?
No longer valid.
I know. All right. Anyway, back to Welch bolts. These are a Welch bolt. And a Welch bolt has a hollow core to it, and so you can put lead wool down inside of the Welch bolt. Why would I want to do something as crazy as that? There you go, to balance it. So we got the Welch bolts. And there we go, Welch bolt. Welch bolts and Wilkie buttons. And mouse milk. And a turbo encabulator. Did you actually have moose milk?
That's the only one I got wrong.
You can't get milk out of a moose.
But I was also, for a second, was thinking, how is it spelled?
Actually, it works better than the mouse one.
Actually, it's a little more robust. Hollow bolt that allows a mechanic to fill the void with lead wool. Nobody's going to ask me what lead wool is. It looks just like steel wool. You ever scrub dishes with an S? Well, you ever scrub dishes? You get steel wool, the old SOS pads. Yeah.
Where'd you get that wool?
Huh?
Where would you get that wool?
From really heavy sheep. From,
You're asking millennials if they've ever washed dishes before?
I know. Trust me. I think these things through, and I'm like, oh, I'm already committed to the story. So. Yeah. I will not comment on that one. All right, mechanic to fill the void with lead wool for balancing. I don't even know where the heck I'm balancing for balancing. Reminds me of another funny story, but not the. It takes a Welch plug in the head to seal the bolt. So it's a thought that you want to check these Welch plugs and make sure. And we'll get that prop out and should be able to find them. Actually. I can't see it. I believe it's, I don't want to say it's, no, it's not. Might be that one. Sorry. You want to make sure that the plug is still in. So if you see a bolt, it's like hollow and you're looking at it and there's no plug, guess what happened? Yep. Lead wool came out. There are a couple terms that you may want to be familiar with. Dry balance. What do you suppose that is? Very close. No grease. And then there's wet balance. Balance with grease.
Is there really such a big difference?
I've never compared the two, but yeah, if you're putting enough grease in there, it definitely would matter. And I've just put this note. This is obviously something I kind of, on all movable props. Be very careful with grease. I'm going to tell you why. The thing with, well, I'll finish that. Do not overfill. And do not fill unevenly. So what happens with propellers is they're just insanely expensive. And there's almost nothing you can do to it unless you're a repair station. So anytime you make a mistake, you're pulling the prop off and you're sending it to a prop shop. And so what happens is if you accidentally grease it with the wrong grease, too much grease, damage a seal, do something stupid while greasing it, the solution is simple. You take it off and you send it to the prop shop. And then the prop shop is going to look at it and make a decision. So you can send it in for just what you call like a clean and a reseal, which is where they take the entire propeller apart and clean everything. But like any good repair station, they're going to check every single thing they have on there before they put it back together. There's no way that any legitimate prop shop would take the liability of disassemble, clean, not inspect, and reassemble, right? Because now they're completely liable. So now they're subject to looking at this propeller and measuring everything. And then they call you up and say, ooh, we have bad news. The turbo encabulator is just beyond limits. So we're going to have to do an overhaul. Well, how much is an overhaul? Well, looking at all the mandatory replacement parts, reseal, the parts that are wore out, got some corrosion on this other thing. You're looking $25,000. So all that because, squeezed the grease gun and you shouldn't have. So, and that's a true story. That actually happens
So
often.
basically they can say any amount of any sum, right? And you don't have relation because it's disassembled and they have them.
No, that's not true. So if that did happen and you didn't trust the prop shop, then you would say, fine, what do we owe you for the disassemble? And you just pay them for the disassemble and inspection. You go pick up the prop and take it to the next prop shop. And then you have a problem. If you did that and you took it to another prop shop and they said, nah, it's pretty much okay, we can put it together, which one do you believe and which one do you now trust? It's like, wait a minute. Is that one being overly cautious, or were they doing the job right? And this is being underly cautious, or are they doing the job? So then you get to worrying. So anyway, that's why I say.
Well, you tell them that another shop rejected it. Tell them why should you accept what they say.
Yeah, but I don't know. I develop a relationship with the prop shop. You develop trust, and people with a bad reputation seem to rise to the surface really quick, and you skim off the scum. So, all right.
Is the propeller shop the one in Reading that people use here?
Yes. No, I've used them. American Propeller. Is that American Propeller?
I don't know.
Okay, there's American Propeller. There's United Propeller. There's another one I know out of. There's one in Stockton, another one in Hayward, and I think it's Hayward. They did a IA seminar, and I thought they were really nice folks. So.
But the point is that the guys who work on the propeller are not necessarily A&P.
That is correct. They are not necessarily A&Ps. Don't have to be.
It's like the NDT guys. They're not A&P, they're NDT guys.
They're when you work for a repair station, you do not need to be an A&P. We had you don't need to be an AP. All right, adjustments. There's actually some adjustments that you as an A&P can make on propellers. Low pitch stops on some of them. This particular one, you can set minimum and maximum blade angles. I wrote must. I should put can. Because if it comes from the prop shop all set up, you're good to go. And you would hope they would. Blade angles can be adjusted. Yes?
On the pictures you were showing, it didn't look like it changed the blade angle very much.
It really doesn't. Because remember, an angle of, what did we say?
60 to 90.
1 degree is 60 to 90 RPM. So you're not going to change it a whole heck of a lot.
1.5 degrees is the maximum you can do or something like that.
Let me see. It comes to about, like, the example I have is 17 and 22. That's not many, it goes from 17 to 22. So that's not much at all. All right. This is done by adjusting stop nuts located under the counterweight cap. By adjusting stop nuts under the counterweight cap. I shall show you. There we are. So these are the stop nuts that go in there. So this cap is actually just a very lightweight cap that you can unscrew. It's just lightweight, I think aluminum actually. And you can take the stop nut out and you can adjust the stops in here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to do this. I'm not going to test you on that, so you can, relax a little bit. But when we're in the lab and I do the oral on this stuff, I'm going to ask you, how can you adjust this? And I need you to at least be able to talk a little bit about the stop nut and where it is and that sort of thing, so you can at least have some idea. All right, done by stop nut. The scale. The scale inside the cap is marked in degrees and half degrees. So the scale inside the cap is marked in degrees and half degrees. This is an important point about that. The numbers are arbitrary and do not correspond to a specific setting. They are arbitrary and do not correspond to a specific setting. What'd I do?
Can you explain arbitrary?
Arbitrary, yes. So these numbers right here. So if you see look, it goes 0 through 5 and 6 through 10. So by setting it at 8 does not mean you're going to go to 8 degrees. By setting it at 2 does not mean you're going to 2 degrees. It's just they stamped it 0 through 10, and it's just reference numbers marked in degrees and half degrees. So it's degree, but it's like, what does it mean? You don't really know. But if it was at 2 and you wanted one more degree, you could go to 3. Go, okay, that's another degree. But it doesn't mean that that's 2 degrees. Follow? Well, yeah, like the first exhaust temp gauge, that's a good one. That didn't have any numbers. It was just, don't worry about the numbers. Okay, let's see, where am I? The base setting. The base setting is usually stamped inside the cap from the last overhaul. Inside the cap from the last overhaul. And guess what we have here? What do we have right there? Base setting, 25. So we got 25 on that prop from the last overhaul. All right, let's do an adjustment example. So we say aircraft calls for blade angles to be set at 17 and 22. So what is my 17? What is that angle there? It's what? Low blade angle. What's 22? It's my high pitch blade angle. So I got 17 and 22. What's the split on that? 5 degrees. So we got a 5-degree split. So, all right. So we'll do that. So 17 is the low pitch, high RPM setting. That means that 22 is the high pitch, low RPM setting. All right, what's my base setting?
25.
Okay, base setting is 25. All right. So base setting is 25. So we got 25 minus 17 equals crickets. I'm not doing math. All right, 8. What's that? Where is it to base? Oh, okay. So right there. So the base setting is usually stamped inside on the last overhaul. So if that's the case, and that's how this whole prop kind of measures out. So we got 25 right there. So if I want, so I got 25 minus 17 is 8. So I can actually use that 8 number. So line 1 stop is set. Oops, line 1, hang on. Line 1 stop nut, I should say. Stop nut is set at, we'll say number 8. So going back to this, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'd set this nut on here to 8 right there. So 8. And in the other way, 22. So 25 minus 22 equals 3. So then I would put line up other stop nut at the number 3. And we come back over here and we look at that, and there's a number 3. So now you know how to read the base setting, what that means, and what these mean in there. Yeah.
So is that bolt stuck in there by those pegs on the side?
Yep. Slides right out. So what we're going to do, we'll pull one of these out, and you'll have a chance to kind of look at it and actually adjust it if you want to. All right. Anything we need to know? Let me see. We can throw in a few other things. Base setting is that. Let's see. I did all that. And this is to make this 3. Verify measurements. With what kind of tool? You got it. Prop protractor. And of course, adjust as needed. Adjust the stops as needed, I should say. Adjust as needed until perfect, right? Because we want perfection. What is the actual tolerance?
1 degree.
On this one, it's plus, the information I have is plus or minus 0.3. 0.3 degrees of low blade, and plus minus 0.2 degrees of high blade. High blade. Oops, I'm sorry. Take that back. This is with each other. Degrees of each other. All right, so I take it out and I run the aircraft. I do all this, I set it up, I take it out, I run the aircraft, and I don't get the proper static RPM. What's my problem?
Too much of a blade angle.
You got it.
blade angle?
Too much of a blade angle. 2 degrees of high blade angle. So 3, 2, 1. 3 degrees low blade, 2 degrees of each other, and 1 of high blade. Let's see, last point we can make here. What about inspections?
Corrosion.
Where would I look for corrosion?
On the blades, on the hub.
Blades. What kind of corrosion would I find?
Rust from environmental.
Yeah, rust, because these are steel parts on there. What else do we have? Corrosion. What? Nicks.
Do you ever have erosion in like sandy or?
Yes, erosion. What does it mean by erosion? Yeah, pitting from sand, grit, unimproved airports that don't have a really good sealed surface. Doing a run up is going to kick up a bunch of rocks and stuff. What else we got? Cracks. Where would I find cracks? You could obviously get cracks in the blades. They propagate pretty fast. I've never seen a cracked blade. I hope I never do. Hubs can get cracks in them. So blades, hubs. What else we got?
Seals
Cylinder.
Seals. What about seals?
on the cylinder.
What would that? What would I get? Seals. Okay, so that transmits into leaks. Very good. So we definitely want to look for leaks.
Mechanical wear. The moving parts with a little, where they see the little counterweight.
Okay, so wear. One of the things you check for wear is movement of the blade to hub. So that should be very minimal.
Play or slot?
Yep, play or slop, which is the wear. Play, slop, wear. You guys are missing easy stuff. There you go. Paint. What if it's polished?
Check and see if it's approved.
Check and see if it's approved. What if it's not?
And then probably need to replace it.
Well, unless you're doing the annual, don't worry about it. I would actually tell the pilot, yeah, you know, this is kind of something you got to watch out for. Yes.
Why can't you have polished prop?
Well, because if you read all of the prop manuals, when it comes to disassemble, clean, inspect, repair, replace, it kind of ends with the and paint with an appropriate or an epoxy paint. A lot of them say epoxy paint. And so if it says that, then you have to do it. And the problem is very few manuals ever said paint or polish. So that has been, FAA's construed that as, well, you haven't followed the maintenance manual. Yes.
Has there ever been a time where like someone put a plane in your shop and the prop was polished and you found out it wasn't like certified after you worked on the plane?
No comment.
I forgot where.
We're on the record.
Could you paint the prop with a chrome paint?
Could you paint it with chrome paint? Okie chrome? That's what we used to call that. Yeah, I'm sure you could. Yeah.
Is that something that a prop repair station could put in their data? And
Yes.
they go through?
You really could do that if you could get the if they wanted to take. So his question was, could a prop repair station get something put in their repair station manual or get an op spec to polish propellers? Yeah, I'm sure they could. You would have to get probably an engineer to buy off on that, FAA approval. Maybe a little difficult, but yeah, you really could. It was the place in Reading, I think it was, and there's a couple places throughout the United States that I don't know if they're still doing it, but for a while would do these wild custom paint jobs. I mean, they're just works of art. They're insanely unique. You know. So they got approval to do that.
Would the polish colors cause quicker vertigo?
No, because you still paint the face black,
Oh,
and then you just polish the front side. And it's how? Well, I've heard that that mother's polish works really well. Cornstarch, some people can use
From
corn.
cars,
Huh? Yeah.
It's only for cars.
Is that what it is? I've heard it works really well. The boss's Cessna 140 had a polished prop on it. Well, I had no idea you couldn't polish prop back then, so we polished prop all the time. That's kind of my thing. I kept the prop nicely polished. Did it about every week. So, all right. Same old stuff, except this one's got oil in it, so it can develop leaks. If you're not careful how you put it together, don't ask me how I know this, but the oil can shoot right out the cylinder and down the blades and completely soak an aircraft to the point where the wings will be dripping oil. And that makes a heck of a mess, let me tell you what. All right. So tomorrow then we will start talking about propeller governors.